There is a hidden history in Egypt that we were not allowed to know, and it all has to do with the brain. All of their imagery was symbolic, and they were trying to explain how to use your brain and develop consciousness so that their society thrived. Now, for example, this is the brainstem, and it represented the god Osiris. And if you look very closely, these similarities are way too accurate to dismiss. And this is all throughout the country, and these things are written in stone. It's very hard to change what's written in stone. And now that we have advanced anatomy images and the ability to create these impressive graphics, which is from Magical Egypt, if you haven't checked it out, you should definitely go look at it. But their goal was to create a prosperous society, and they knew that if they taught people how to use their brains correctly and develop as conscious people, then their society would thrive. So their way of educating was through images. For example, this snake represents the unity of the two hemispheres of the brain and the emergence of a conscious being. That's why the kings and queens had it. There's something very strange about these pots. They're not normal pots. They're made out of granite, and there's literally 50,000 of them, and they come from ancient Egypt. They're made out of granite, one of the hardest rocks known to man. And these are the tools that we are told that they use to make these things. Now, there's one problem with this. The precision of these pots and vases are down to a human hair. They are so precise that we would have extreme difficulty replicating them today. Not only that, but the inside of the vase where those little handles are is carved out. We don't have a tool that can do this, let alone do anything close to what the ancient Egyptians had accomplished. Today, we use diamond-tipped massive saws to cut granite. So I want to know, what do you think they used to build and carve all of these amazing artifacts? I learned in school that these were temples to gods. But if we look at it differently, these are the left and the right sides of your brain. The doorway is the doorway into the temple. And once you enter the temple, then you can learn more about your brain, developing the faculties or the third eye of your brain. This allows you to do way more in reality, where you unify the creative side with the logical action side of your brain. Something very strange about magnetics. I need you to buckle up for this one. Now, magnetic fields are in the shape of a torus, which is just a fancy word for donut. And we can see that in the ferrocell, and we can see it when these iron flakes are flying around this magnet on a chain. You can see how the energy flows. Cool, why does this matter? This is how the planet protects itself from the sun when it tries to fucking attack us. It shoots these angry balls of energy at us, and the magnetic field gets bent when it interacts with it. Now, when these magnetic field lines connect again, they go back into the poles of the Earth through that toroidal shape, and then that's how we get the auroras. Now, the interaction of these creates these magnetic hotspots on the planet, and we call these ley lines. Now, we can see this with the new satellites that we have. It gives us a very clear image of all these little points where they're at. Now, the weird thing is, our ancient homies built their structures on hotspots on the planet, and they accidentally built them in the same shape that can harness all of that energy into a fine point, creating a magnetic field around the structure. Now, they accidentally created a giant alternator, and if only they knew what shape could harness that energy. You know, imagine the stuff they could do. Can we transfer power through water? We can. Can we get it from the air? We can. So Plasma Channel has done both. He's done it with a Tesla coil through water, and he hooked a drone up to a string and generated power through the air. Check it out.
The clouds finally opened up, so I connected up the corona motor. Like before, one side was connected to ground, while the other was attached to the aerial wire. And after just a few seconds, hey, she's spinning. This is just remarkable.
The voltage gradient between Earth and the sky is fairly linear, starting with 0 at Earth and increasing by around 100 volts per meter. And it can be shown by these equipotential lines representing the voltage gradient. All the conductive objects connected to ground though, like people, trees or buildings, or even this wire the J guy wants to send to the sky, are at 0 volts, which means these equipotential lines will have to curve around them. But these equipotential lines become increasingly more compressed around the grounded object the higher it is. In other words, the intensity of electric fields it experiences increases with height. Now, if sharp electrodes are present beside intense enough electric fields, the air molecules are ionized that suck electrons from ground through the wire into the electrodes into the positive ions of air. So like that, we can create electric current.
So we know these pyramids create a toroidal EMF field, right? We know that plants grow significantly faster with EMF. Do animals? Do trees? Do humans? I don't know. Hold on. Sit down. Look at this. This is weird, right? Egyptian art is beautiful, but why does it look like this? You know what that is? That's your cerebellum. It processes visual information. I know, you're thinking, Mr. Static, that's a very, very good coincidence. It's very observant that you saw that. But look at this. This is the optic chiasm. The front of it is a diagram of how your eyes connect to it. Okay? 2 for 2. Still a coincidence. Let's look at the beetle. The scarab symbolizes protection of the brain. That's why the cranial sutures line up perfectly. The beetle's wings line up perfectly with the 2 hemispheres of the brain. The 2 hemispheres process this information and relay it to the cerebellum in the back. That's what those balls are. If you do an MRI scan, it looks pretty close to a beetle. The legs being those nerves that plug your consciousness into reality. If you like that, I got 40 more of those. Hidden History is finally complete. If you follow that link, you can get access to all of them right now. I had a tough time accepting this one because, like school. But Egypt had electricity long before we had electricity. If you Google the Baghdad battery, they discovered it in 1936, and no one knew what it was until a scientist saw it in a museum and said, yeah, that's a battery. Now these pillars right here are called JED pillars, D-J-E-D-D, and if you look up power line insulator, it looks exactly like a power line insulator. So extrapolate this. If we know that Egypt had this technology, and India is, in my opinion, far more detailed at least, if not more advanced, what were they powering? Imagine learning that slaves built the craziest thing you've ever seen on the planet, and then realizing that that's like impossible because our professionals can't build anything like that, and then looking deeper and realizing how good they actually were, and that the people that they said did it don't look like the people that are on the walls of the place, and then looking at the people that they actually enslaved and realizing that maybe we're not being told the whole story, maybe. I learned in school that these were temples to gods, but if we look at it differently, these are the left and the right sides of your brain. The doorway is the doorway into the temple. And once you enter the temple, then you can learn more about your brain, developing the faculties or the third eye of your brain. This allows you to do way more in reality, where you unify the creative side with the logical action side of your brain.